Very good afternoon, everyone, to all the participants of Developer Days. Welcome to the sixth session of Developer Student Community, Mozilla Durg and KOG Durg's present Developer Days, a month-long celebration for all the developers. Authentication partner Savo Labs, platform partner Dayfolio, supported by Script Foundation and streaming partner StreamYard. So today we are going to have a session on SQL, MySQL. In the last week, we had some sessions on backend, and did have a session on setting up authentication of Savo Labs. I guess front end and back end part is clear now. We'll be having some sessions on how to integrate databases. And as databases, there are two types of common databases SQL, MySQL, and the second one is NoSQL databases. So tomorrow will be sorry, day after tomorrow we'll be having session on MongoDB. Today we'll be having SQL, MySQL. So we have Nishchal Singi, who is a GSOC student with us. I guess he can hop in on screen. Hi Nishchal.
Hello,
How are
fellow
you?
developers. Hi, Khalid. How are you?
It's amazing. So what we are gonna do today?
Yeah, so today we are gonna talk all about data and databases and how you can cope up with them and how you can store data in MySQL databases.
Great. So like any prerequisites, I guess we have to install MySQL. So I have
Yeah,
already we have already circulated that message on our Discord servers. I hope everyone has installed it. By the way, if you can quickly tell us how we can get MySQL.
yeah. So there are some links present, and if you go to Google and just type install MySQL, you'll get the first link, which is from MySQL directly, and it's an open source software, so there's no need to pay for it, and then you can install it in your machine. This is for Windows, and in Linux, you have some commands which you can follow and install MySQL directly and start working with it.
Great, then I guess Nishchal, it's over to you. I'll be going to backstage, so the stage will be all yours. So you can start with the session.
Thank you, Khalid. So, hi guys, I am Nishchal and I'm a developer and I have completed my GSOC this August. And so, without further ado, let's get going with databases. So, let me just. Uh, are you guys able to see my screen, Khalid?
Yes, it's visible. It's visible.
Yeah. Okay. So, guys, I'll be talking about MySQL and integrating it with the web applications. So, let's get going. So first of all, what is data? Okay, data is something which will start as soon as you start your software project. So it is something these are crucial pieces of information such as your passwords, your user logins, your photos, and everything. Even a small piece of information is crucial in a application. So in order to store this data, we need something called as database. So databases are something which are used to store this data. So there are many types of databases like relational databases, then there are MySQL and NoSQL, PostgreSQL databases, and MongoDB, which are very famous. Also there are a lot of cloud databases which help us store the data. So basically, every database uses four common queries on the go. Those are CRUD. So CRUD is an it's create, read, update, and delete. So these queries are used almost constantly whenever you are interacting with a database. So I'll be explaining this in just a few moments. But first, let us look what databases to use and why. So as I told you, there are many databases, and it rather becomes complicated for a developer to choose what type of database for which applications. Here I'm going to talk to you about relational and non-relational database. So relational, as the name suggests, it provides us a relation with those with the data. So so suppose let's have two instances. Okay, there's a teacher in the college and there's students in the college. So how will we know that a particular teacher is teaching a particular student? Well, in a database we have something called as IDs. So a teacher can have a unique ID and each student can have a unique ID, such as your hall ticket numbers or your roll numbers. So a teacher, uh, so if we assign a particular ID to a teacher and then we provide a relation from the teacher to the student, then we will be able to know that okay, this teacher is going to teach this student and this classroom. So there you go, those are relational databases. These are stored in form of rows and columns, like in form of tables. An example is MySQL database, which we'll be looking further. And the next part is non-relational database. True to its name, non-relational, there's no relation between them. We have to, sometimes we have to provide relations and we have to code it. And they have a particular format which they use on their own. Let me give you an example, such as MongoDB, which uses JSON format, which is JavaScript object notation format, which is most common in non-relational database. If you look at Google Firebase, it also uses JSON format to store the data. So I'll be discussing RDBMS databases and more, also in particular MySQL database. So let's go to MySQL. MySQL or MySQL, most of us call, is short form for structured query language, and it's an RDBMS. It was introduced by a Swedish company. So okay, now the question arises: why we use MySQL and not any other database? Okay. Uh, Let me give you the answer. Well, it's very fast and easy to use. It's open source, and it combines, it is available in many operating systems such as Linux, Mac OS, Windows, which are the most common applications. Plus it is also available in many server languages, server operating systems, for example CentOS. And it works very well with large data sets. Let me give you an example for the fourth point. So most of you know, machine learning and AI algorithms use large data sets. So these data sets come in form of CSV files. So these CSV files are in tables and columns. So there you go. That uses MySQL uh, language to store the data. Then let's go with the basics. Okay. As we told you, like, to install MySQL in your machines, so I'm using a Windows machine over here. So I'll be showing you how we can interact with the MySQL database. So here we have three very common queries which we'll be using almost continuously when we are interacting with MySQL database. So let me first go to my MySQL workbench. Okay, so this is a GUI form of a MySQL database. Okay, particularly it is a GUI for the command line. There's also command line interface, but in command line you won't get the benefits of using a GUI. So let me click on this instance. Okay, we need to provide a password for that. Most of you might have encountered this when you are installing MySQL on your machines. So yeah. Okay, so that was the query. So as we can see over here, this is a GUI form of MySQL database, and these are all the databases which are present in your MySQL database, which is in your local machines. This is not on the server. These databases are present in your local machines. So as we have over here, we have five databases. Let me just quickly clear this. Uh, yeah, so
Just a
these
small
are the,
request, Nishchal.
yeah,
Can you zoom a bit? Can you zoom the screen a bit because
yeah, sure.
participants cannot see that.
Uh, Actually, the editor is zoomable, but not this schemas. Okay, so okay, I have, so to view the database, we can have,
Can you increase the text that
yeah, yeah.
the show
So
databases and all? If you
yeah,
can increase it, right? Great.
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we have it over here. I don't know this part, the output part is not quite it's quite small, but sorry guys, please view it. This is a GUI form. uh, I can also use the command line, but yeah, it will mess up the uh, database. So we have here show database. Okay, So this is the first query, show database. So this query shows all the databases which are present in your database. So here we have information, MySQL, performance. So except the test database, these all databases are preloaded with the MySQL installation. So these are all the common things which are required. So you have your world. So this world database is used, has all the countries and regions of the world. Okay, so now use database name. Okay, so suppose if you want to use a particular database, so let's go on to over here. So I want to use the world database. Okay, so if I just type use and the database name, there we go. Okay, so the shortcut where for what I'm running it is control plus enter. So there we go. When I'm in the world database, this highlights it over here. So MySQL will know, okay, the user wants to go into the world database, and it will jump to the world database. Suppose I want to use system database. I can use SYS. There we go. It jumps to the SYS system database. Okay, for now. And this one, show database. As the name says, it's a simple, it shows all the tables which are present in the database. As a table earlier, uh, database is in the form of rows and columns, which is a common form of tables. So it uses table format, and I have different tables over here. Let me show you. There we go. Now these three tables which are present in the database,
Hello,
using the show
Nishchal.
tables, we
Hello.
can check
I
out
guess
this
Nishchal, you are
table
facing some network
and
issues.
read table how we can perform operations for the organization. And this is just an intro and how we can switch between data sources and everything.
Hello.
Now let's how we create it.
I'm really sorry for this. I have to check with Nishchal. By the time, if you have any doubts regarding uh, SQL and MySQL, please put it over here. I'll just miss. By the time, I'll just message Nishchal. By the time, if you can quickly guys, do you want a giveaway? Can we have like a small spam on the chat if you guys want some giveaways? By the time, I'll just have a word with Nishchal. He's facing some network issues.
Wondering this will be completely a session
Hello,
on this.
Nishchal.
Yeah,
Hello.
yeah, yeah.
Actually, you were facing some network issues, and the part where you were explaining the sys command,
Okay,
your voice was disconnected. So it would be great if we can have this thing once again.
okay. So should I rejoin again, or
And
else
you are
I'm
audible
live?
now. You are audible and visible now.
Okay, okay.
There
I
was
don't
some
know
network
why.
issues. That was
Okay,
that why I was calling.
okay.
Like,
So let me just. Okay, you told me I was using the sys command. Okay. So okay, sorry guys. It seems we had some technical issues. So let's continue. Okay, I was in the world database basically. Let's do the world. And now after so suppose you guys might be wondering, we have to use the date now. Why do we use these only database? I want to create a new database. So the command is simple: create database and the database name which you want to create. So let's have it developer days, enter, and there we go. The database has been created. Let me refresh this. We have the developer days database. So the bottom part is the console part. It will show you all the logs from starting to ending, whatever whatever queries you have been performing. So again, now I have to switch. I am in the world database as it is highlighted over here. Now I want to switch to developer days. So let's go use developer days. There we go. We are in a developer days database, and then we can interact and play with it as we like. Let's go to the PPT and next. So here, as I told you in the first slide, we have four commands CRUD. So to give an analogy, we this is the bread and butter of each database. CRUD commands. It is create, read, update, and delete. These commands are constantly used to perform any operations on the database. So let's head on to the first command, create. So we have this first command name create table, table name values. Okay. So I'm in my developer database and let me create a table. Okay. Now coming to the syntax part, MySQL is a lightly typed language. Now, what do we mean by this is we can have create table. It will recognize if it is caps or small, like it doesn't matter, but if you keep caps in between it, it will give you an error and it will correct itself. So please mind that. But for so create table, so continuing create table, table name. Okay, so let's create a table name details. Okay, table name, and then we have to give these parameters. Now what are these parameters? These parameters are what you want the table column names should be. So these are basically the table column names. So right here we have values and their respective data types. So there are many data types in MySQL. We'll be most commonly using the four data types: int, integer, string, uh, number, and float. Like these are the common data types we'll be using, but I would recommend you to go to the documentation, the homepage, and go through the documentation if you want to explore more data types regarding MySQL. So here we have, let's have a username, which will be a varchar of 20. So okay, so what is this varchar? Okay, varchar is the number of characters which the username can handle, and this is the length of the string. So it can handle up to 20 characters length. Okay, so we have the username, and then let's have an age. We can have it as big int. Let's suppose I have a big int. Okay, so big int, it integer, as you know, in many languages integer is restricted, and for that purpose we'll be using big int. Okay, and after that let's have an email text. Okay, this is another data type. Text is used when varchar cannot handle the capacity of the characters. So text handles long strings and long lengths. So we'll be using text for email because some users might have, or some people might have many characters long email. And then we'll be having the password, because as it is a database we'll be storing some personal details, so why not a password? And that also I'll be making it as text. Okay, and after this, now as I gave you an example about the unique IDs which will be which database might have. So for that I'll be creating a field named ID, and I'll be giving it begin, because databases can contain millions of users. So begin will handle that problem. I'll be giving it as unique because each ID attribute should be unique. And then, okay, and then I'll be giving it another parameter named auto increment. Okay, so what does this auto increment do? It will automatically increment the ID. Suppose when we are collecting the information from the front end and we forget to increment the value, or else we forget to input the ID, the MySQL the MySQL compiler will check it, and then it will automatically increment the ID itself based on the previous values. So now here again, I'll be making a keyword primary key. Okay, so there are two types of keys in MySQL named primary key and foreign key. These two keys will provide us the relation between two tables. So the teacher has a unique id and the student have a unique id. How do we know that the unique id of the teacher is connected to the unique id of student? Well, primary key and foreign key helps us with that. So what does primary key do? Primary key will tell, okay, I have gone to I'm in my table details, and now I'll take the primary key as id. So primary key tells us that id should be unique. So if I don't keep this unique keyword over here, it will automatically it will automatically understand that the id is a unique value in the table details. Coming to foreign key, so foreign key is a primary key in another table which will connect it to the table which we want to provide a relation to. Okay, let me tell you again. Foreign key is a primary key in another table which provides us a relation with the table which we want to connect. Okay, so that those are the two keys which I'll be using it. And let so there we go. Our query is successful. And now let me refresh the schema over here, and we got a table details. Now how do we view the table? Like, how do we know if the table is created correctly or not? So for that we have a command desc table name. So desc is short for description, so it provides us the description of the uh, table. So let's go to details, and we got over here. Yeah, so the yeah, so these are the fields which we input in the previous value, previous query where we are creating the table, and these are the data types. And this is null. So null is something like if you forget to input a value from the front end, so how does the database take care in the back end? So this will tell us that will the database accept null values or not. Key, primary key and foreign key. Default value, we don't want any default value as we'll be collecting it from the front end. And extra is auto increment, which I told you, like it will automatically increment if we forget to provide a value. And here we have username, age, email, and user password. So let's go on. We have this second query, insert into table name values, and these values should be according to the parameters. Okay, let me elaborate on that. Insert into table name. So what's the table name? We have details, and we want to insert the values. So we have it over here, id. So we want to insert an id. Let's have 101 as the id. And username, it's a string, so let's have test. Age, email, uh, sorry, it's uh, let me minimize this. Okay, age, email will be my test@test.com, just providing a dummy email and also a dummy password, test at 123 dollar. Okay, so this is what we'll be inserting into the database, and let's hope everything goes correctly and the data gets inserted into the database. There we go. The query is okay, and the data has been inserted into the database. So you can play around with it, like you can insert 102, 103, 104, anything. So again, I'll show you an error over here, and the function of primary key where I told you like it will take only unique values. So again, I'm trying to insert the same ID 101, but it's not unique. We know that, but how does the database know that primary key comes into action? So now when I try to execute this same query, it will give us an error. And what the error is, error code duplicate key. Okay, 1 minute. Let me copy it and show it to you. Yeah. So we have it over. duplicate entry for 101 for key primary. So there you go, guys. The primary key comes into play if we are trying to enter any duplicate values for the particular one. And yes, you can enter multiple primary keys into the same table, but I would recommend not doing that, because then it clutters the database, and then when you're providing a relation between two tables, it will mess up the whole process. So provide a unique attribute, a unique primary key. So let me enter another value, 102. Let's have it test one. Increment the age. Okay, and the same password, and that the query is okay. So now how to view that our query is correctly inserted into the database? Well, we have the read command over here, which is crud, the second command in crud operation, which is select query from the table name. So there are two types of query which I'll be performing over here: select star and select the column name. So I'll show you what those two will be. Okay, select star from details. Okay, so what does star will do actually? So star means to select everything and display the whole table. So this will actually display the whole table. And now the second query which I talked to you, let's say I want to just display the age. I don't want to reveal any information over here. I just want to display the age. So in place of star, I'll just do age. There we go. We just got the age column. So that's the difference between star and another operations. So star means everything. I want to print the whole table, and a column name means I want to only print or output the particular column. So after this, I want to show you another thing where you don't want to print the entire column, you don't want to print the entire table, you just want to print only a one row. Like you want to print this 102, the person with 102 id. So after this, so what we'll do is we'll add a where will make it as a condition. So let me just show you, where id equal to 102. So as the id is unique, we can take that 102 row and we can print it over there. So there we go. As I'm using star, but I don't want to print the entire table, I'm telling MySQL, okay, I'll give you a condition. I want to print the row where the id is just 102, and it will print it over there. Also, if you don't want to print the entire row, you can print just the age with the id 102, and it will just give you a single result. So that's the read command. Then going on to update. Okay, so this is the third command in crud operation, update. So the syntax is update the table name, we have to give it, provide set the column name which we want to change with the our value, and the where condition. Here the where condition is very important, because the MySQL instance will know what row and particularly what column I want to change. So here let me use the update command, and before that let me just show you what I'll be changing. uh, okay, so I want to change this email from test1 at the test.com to test at test.com, same as the above. So I'll be doing it as update the table name, which is details, and I want to set email equal to test at test.com. But okay, I'll set the email, but at what row, what column I want to set that. So where id equal to 102. So I want to change only the column, only the row where the id is 102, and that particular email I want to change it. So the query is okay, and let's now check the database. There we go. We change the okay, let me just print it over here. There we go, guys. I just printed it over here so that you guys will be able to see what change we have done. So it was first test1 at test.com. Now we have changed it to test at test.com. So that's the update command for you. And delete. So as the name suggests, is the fourth command in crud operation. Delete will delete that particular row from the table. So mm, I want to delete the row with id 102. So delete details, delete table name where id equal to 102. Okay, I want to okay, delete. Okay, delete from tables. Okay, okay. So delete from details where id equal to 102. So let me execute it. There we go. We have the query. Okay, now when we see the table, we have that column delete, we have that row deleted. So there you go, guys. These are the simple crud commands which we'll be using continuously for any database. So suppose you go to MongoDB or you go to PostgreSQL, any database, you'll be using these four commands almost constantly in your project. So let's go to the next slide. Now we have stored procedures. Okay, this is a bit advanced concept, but this is similar to what will be to the functions which you have in JavaScript, Python, Java, or C. So these, as the name suggests, these are prepared SQL statements which will be stored in the database, in the particular database which you are using, and this will help you to execute the SQL queries in your web applications very easily. Suppose I want to constantly query this. Okay, you're connecting your SQL database, MySQL database, with your web app, and suppose in your home page you want to display all these information, okay, except user password, or else it's your wish. So suppose you want to display all these information in your home page, in your admin page. So how to do that? You cannot let the web application continuously execute this, right? This is a normal query, but in large databases there'll be 1,000 or 400 to 1,000 lines of queries. So we won't be able to write all that in a web application. So for that, we'll be using something called stored procedures. Now you'll be wondering, there are functions also in MySQL. Yeah, but functions will return a particular value. Like in JavaScript, function has to return something. It cannot return a null value or zero. It can return zero, but it cannot return a null value. Whereas in stored procedures, it doesn't have to return anything. It will just execute the SQL statement and it will give you the result. So let's create a simple stored procedure over here. So delimiter. Okay, so what is this? Delimiter double dollar. Okay, so you have been seeing me using this as the statement delimiter, which is used in JavaScript and Java. But I'm changing here delimiter to double dollars because we don't want MySQL to confuse with the SQL statements which I'll be writing it inside the begin and end block. Okay, so let's create a procedure. Create procedure, and a procedure name, let's give it as test. And here we'll be taking a few parameters. So these parameters are something which you will be passing when you're calling the procedure, because you can like, it's your wish, you can add these parameters if you want, but it's a good practice to add a parameters so that you will know what you are using inside the procedure. So I'll be adding a name field which will have a varchar value of 20, which will have a data type of varchar, and its length will be 20. Okay, so after this, I'll be beginning my SQL statement over here. Select star from, okay, details, Yeah, so now I used a semicolon here at the end because this is an SQL statement. This stored procedure is also an SQL statement, but as I declared delimiter double dollar over in the, over the first line, so MySQL will know, okay, for the stored procedure I'll use double dollar as the delimiter, but for the inside SQL statements I'll be using semicolon as the delimiter, and I'll be ending the statement with double R. So you can write many statements over here and they'll be executing line by line. So let me first create this stored procedure. Yeah, the query is okay and we have created the stored procedure. Let me refresh the schema. We have it over here in the schema test. And now when I click this small tool button, we'll be seeing this. This is your stored procedure and you can edit inside of this GUI, and then you can apply those changes and it will be applied to your stored procedure. Now I want to execute the stored procedure, so I'll be using call and the procedure name, which is test, and I'll be providing a parameter as I used in this stored procedure, a parameter named name, and it's a varchar of 20. So I'll be providing a name test. Okay, and then when I'll call this, we have the table with only one row. As we deleted the second row, that's why we have the table with only one row. So let me just quickly insert a few values into the table. And the password will be test1, and I'll just change the ID and I'll do it again, and one more time, test11 with another ID. Yeah, so why I'm keeping this ID? Because the field is null, it doesn't take any null value. We can have a null value in a name, age, email, or password. So if I execute this one with 106 as the ID, it will tell it's okay because it accepts the name, age, email, and password accepts null values. So now in this procedure also, what I'll be doing is let me just move. Okay, so I'll be making a change over here. So here we have select star from details, and here I provided a name, but here I'll be using this name in this SQL statement with a simple condition where the username will be the provided username, which I'll be passing through this parameter over here, and I'll apply the change. Okay, I want to apply this change. The change is applied, and then let's go to the query and now call the procedure with a username name test, and hopefully it should give us a query. Okay, and it should provide us one row. Yeah, so that there we go, we have only one row with the name test. Now let me just show you the whole database, and from details. Okay, so we have this over here. Now with test one we have two, so this I'll execute it with test one, call the procedure with test one, and we got two rows because the username which I provided is test one, and it is similar and it is same, exact same in both the rows, so that's why it is giving me both the rows. So that's stored procedure, and let's start coding. So now I'll be showing you how we can integrate what all we learned in this database and connect it with our front end application. So the application which I'm using is MySQL and Python as a backend framework for connecting MySQL and SQL, MySQL and the front end HTML. So Khalid, if you can provide the link the GitHub link. So I created a boilerplate code so that we don't have to create the front end once again. So if you can provide it, it would be good in the chat.
Yes, just a second. I'll just provide the link in the chat.
Yeah, sure.
I guess, yes, the link is live.
Okay,
Great.
so you guys can check it over there. It's in my GitHub, and you guys can clone it. I'll show it to you from the start how we are going to create and connect it with the backend with the MySQL database. So let me just share it. So I have over here my Visual Studio Code, and I'll be opening a terminal over here, and I'll be cloning the repo, the same link which Khalid provided you in the chat. So clone it. Yeah, it successfully. Now I'll be heading on to this web app. So as you can see, we have the static templates, font size. Yeah. So we have the static templates in it, README, and all these uh, folders and files. So the main folder is this server.py, which will connect the front end and the back end with it. I'll quickly show you. So right here we have those boilerplate code which will get you started. So let me just quickly create a virtual environment. The reason why I'm creating a virtual environment in Python is unlike node modules, Python provides us with virtual environment where the models will be installed in a particular environment, and it won't affect with the system modules. So the command is virtual env. I'll be using virtual env as I am comfortable. You guys can use any virtual environments. So it will create a virtual environment in this one. Just take a moment.
Hello, Nishchal, if I'm audible, you are facing again, I
So
guess,
virtual environment
network
was
issues.
created, and now we can install all our Python modules in this virtual environment. Go to
Nishchal,
activate
hello.
it.
I guess he's facing some network issues. So let me contact him once again and I'll be back by the time. Guys, we have a giveaway at 50 likes and we are about 13 likes to go. So it would be great if you can come back, like if you can have and like the stream so we can give away more and more bitcoins by the time Nishal haven't joined. And if you have any questions regarding anything regarding to developer days, you are free to ask it on the server as well as in the live chat. Nishal, am I audible? I guess he's facing some network issues. No worries. By the time he's back, still not audible. Nishal, am I audible?
Yeah.
Nishal, am I audible?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Uh, you are facing some network issues once again. So can you
Oh,
go back and start from the like the time you open the terminal?
okay, okay, yeah, sure. Uh, Again, network issue. Okay. Um, okay.
I'll just put the
So,
screen. Great.
yeah,
Thanks.
okay.
I'll be going
So,
back share again. Bye.
okay. So what I did was, okay. So I lost you guys over here. So what I did was I created a virtual environment over here. So what virtual environment does is it will uh, partition your system modules with the project modules, and it's a good practice in software project to partition your software modules with the system module so that it doesn't affect your other projects. So to make a virtual environment, the command is virtual env. And I have cloned the repo, the link that Khalid provided. So this is the repo, and that's how the project structure will be. And so the command which I used to create a virtual environment was virtual env. So this is a Python based virtual environment. So this will create a virtual environment. I'm using virtual env. You guys can use any virtual environment of your choice. So after creating that virtual environment, how to activate it, how to access it. So to you have to write the environment name backslash scripts backslash activate. So it will activate. So this small brackets and the environment name will show you whether you are in your virtual environment or not. So now I want to install all those modules. So this requirements.txt is a file wherein I provided you all those required modules. So to install this, you have to type pip install. The command is pip install. Okay, sorry, hyphen r requirements.txt. So executing this command will install all those modules which you will be needing in your web app. So now how to check whether the all the modules are installed or not? You can check using pip freeze. The pip freeze will tell you whether the modules are correct and have been installed correctly or not. Now, let us check what this boilerplate code will give us. So to run this web application, we just need to run this server file. So for this, I'm using Flask as an engine to run the web application. It's a lightweight engine, and it has a lot of connections with the databases, and it's open source. So you guys can use it with ease. So Python server.py. So if all those previous steps are correct, you will be able to see that this is your URL, and the this is where your project is running. So let me go over here, Chrome, and type it. There we go. We have this beautiful UI, and this is the beautiful web application which will tell you for which I'll be giving a demo how to connect it with your backend. So we have this verify. So if I go to this verify, we have these two, verify and password, and verify the details. And we have this enter details, wherein you'll be entering your details and then you'll be connecting it with the database. So let's quickly go to the server.py file and check it what it is. So I won't be explaining line by line over here as it's a quite short session. So these are all the imports which you'll be needing. So these are the Flask imports, and these are the security for the password and all. And this is the MySQL import for which you'll be connecting it with your MySQL database. So I have this file named init, wherein I'll be keeping my MySQL password so that it will connect it with your database. So these are the four parameters which you'll be using. So this is on your local machine, that's why the host is localhost. But when you are on the server, the database host will be changing. So keep in mind and change this. And the database name also keeps changing because as we created a details database, so I'll be using the details database over here. So details over here, and this MySQL password will be the password of the MySQL instance, and this database user is the root. So root is an admin user. In other databases there will be some other users with not admin access, so change this entry accordingly. And app.secret key, okay, this is something which will make your application more responsive with the front end. So if we go over here, we have these three buttons. So I'll be telling you more on this as we are
Nishal,
developing the
can
application.
you zoom the like the text area a bit?
Yeah, is it okay?
Thanks. Yes, it's
Yeah.
cool. Thanks.
Okay, so let me just minimize this. And yeah, so we have this import static and styles. These are all the styles which which are provided to the web application. So this is the MySQL instance, like we are connecting it with the Flask app, so that Flask will make it so that Flask knows what database we are using, and this app route and all. Okay, so this route is the routes which will be using it over here. So as you can see, these are the routes. Let me copy it. So okay, so this is your URL and this is the route. These are specific routes attached to specific HTML pages which you will be writing your logic in. So this is the home page, that's why it's called the main, and this is verify view and details view respectively for these two views, verify and enter details. So will be developing a simple CRUD application using Python and MySQL. So let's dive right in and start coding. So first I'll be making a enter details view, because without entering details we cannot verify the details. So let me just dive right in. If request, okay, so what am I doing over here? Request dot method is post. So whenever you communicate with the front end and the server, there'll be a request response model. So for that, if my request is post request, so there are two types of request named get and post. So get is where you won't hide the details. Post is where you hide the details, and generally which you will use for your form data. So over here, I want to specify, okay, in details, I want to use what methods I want to use particularly. So here I want to use the get method and also the post method, as the web page should be able to handle both. So if my method is request.post, I want to take the values from the front end. So these are username, email, age, and password. Okay. So let me go to this uh, login.html. I'm sorry, the naming is not correct. Uh, so we have this, okay, sign up. So we have this HTML file. Let me just show you a quick. Okay, so this is the HTML file which is provided in the GitHub link. You can check it yourself. You can check with that. And these are the parameters: name, email, age, and password. So what I'll be doing is I'll be accessing those values through this server.py file. So I want to have this username as request request.form the particular username. So what I'm doing is, as this is a form tag, I'm using it over here, form tag, and as it is a post method and I want to access it confidentially, so I don't want the user also to know that I'll be accessing these details. Like post, it will hide those details so that the it is not visible to common people. So common users, sorry, username, then age. I'll just copy this request.form. I'm requesting the form to provide me the age, email also, and the password. Request.form of password. Okay, so now after getting all these details, now I want to connect it with my database. Okay, so let's connect it. So now first I'll be adding a simple check over here. So now if I have my username and age and email and password, so like I'm just simple, this is a simple check, like if I have all those fields, this I'm checking it in the while the information is coming from front end to the server, and then it will go to the back end. So now after that I'll be doing I'll be making a variable where I'll be making a connection. Okay, so this statement, it will tell the Flask app, okay, I want to connect with MySQL. So this internally will take these values, root, password, details, database, and the host, and it will connect it with the MySQL instance, and it will go over here and connect it with this database. So after connecting, I want to execute a query. So for that, for Python, we have this cursor. Okay, so cursor, it will let me just tell you. Okay, what does this cursor do? This cursor is similar to what we are using it over here. So cursor in simple words is this, uh, is a pointer which will tell the database I want to execute a particular query. So you cannot directly connect and execute the query. You need a cursor or a pointer to tell, okay, I want to execute this query, whether this query is correct or not. So I'll be calling that cursor, and then I'll be calling a procedure. Okay, so as I talked about stored procedures, this is also the same as cursor.callProc will call a stored procedure. So I have this over here, a stored procedure which I created beforehand. I'll copy it and create this stored procedure over here. So let me just tell you what this is. So this is similar to what the example I showed you over in the beginning. I'm using that delimiter, and I'm creating a procedure named user create, uh, and its username, email, age, and password. So now these data types should be same as what we provided in the table. So these data types should be same as what the data types are there in username, age, email, and user password. So I'm executing, and this particular entry, line 9, will check if the user is already there in the database or not. So this is a simple check to check whether I'll be getting a duplicate entry or not. So this is that, and then after I get all that, I'll inserting the values into the user. So username, email, age, and password, and the values are the parameters which I'll be passing in the procedure. So these are the values: username, email, age, and password, which I'll be passing it in this SQL statement, and then I'll be inserting it into the database. So that's this procedure. I'll execute it. So now we have one more stored procedure here, user create, sp user create. So I'll be copying this stored procedure, and then I'll be calling it over here, sp user create, and here I'll be passing those values: the username, age, email, and password. So these are the values which I'll be passing it from the front end to the database. So let me just check it once again: username, age, email, and password. Okay, it's username, email, age, and password. So yeah, so this is also a syntax which is followed by MySQL. The parameters should be same as what the parameters are defined in the database. So as I'm entering here first email, so first we need to send the email, and then we can send the age. So we have this age, password. I'm creating it. Now it will call the procedure, and if everything is right, it will enter these four fields into the database, and then after that I'll be using what we call cursor dot fetch all. Okay, so cursor dot fetch all, what it will do is it will fetch all those rows which are affected by this entry. So this is a Python syntax which for which Python it will communicate with MySQL, and it will fetch all those rows which are affected by this entry. So now if my length of data is 0, okay, so if uh, so suppose a row is affected using this. So if they have the same ID, like that won't happen. But if they have the same ID, or else the database is corrupted. So this will tell you, okay, a row is affected, and okay, and I have returned error, so please check that error. So I'll print the data as well, so that I can show you on the terminal what is getting printed. So now if everything is good, so I'll be commit. So con.commit is a statement where we are committing all those changes to the database, and then I'll be returning a value. Return I'll be returning the home screen. Get home.html. Yeah. So it's a simple procedure where you'll be taking the values from the front end. You'll be checking those values. This is a simple check. You can have multiple checks, like if the length of username is zero or not. Like you can have these simple checks, but I have this quite simple check, like none of this is null. Then I'm connecting it, I'm putting a pointer, and I'm calling the procedure over there. And then if the data is correctly inserted or not, if the data is correctly inserted, I'll be calling the home page. So let me just save it, and I'll just stop sharing the screen for a minute. I'll put my MySQL password in the init file. Yeah. So let me just share my screen. Yeah. Hope I'm live now again. Yeah. So let me go back to the terminal, clear it up, and then again restart the server. We have this enter details page, and then we'll be entering a user test 11123. Email will be test at test1.com. My age will be 32, and my password will be some numbers. And when I click on submit details, okay, we got an error, unknown details database. Okay, yeah, so the error was, okay, details. Okay, and what database we have? Developer days. Yeah. So there you go, guys. We encountered an error. So what the error was is, we have unknown database details. So this is actually the database name. I'm sorry. This is developer days, and let me just check it once again. Okay, developer days with a small d. Okay, and again, we just clear the server, and hope everything goes right. Okay, again an error. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, so we have a details, not users. Where username is this, and details, username, email, age, and user password. Okay. So uh, yeah, there we go, guys. The data has been successfully inserted into the database, and we can now check it over here. Select star from details. I'll enlarge it. There we go. We got 107, test 123, age is 32, and test, and the password is test. There we go, guys. So that's how you communicate MySQL database from the backend, and also take the values from the front end and insert it into the database. So next is verify. So verify is, you will be reading the database, and you'll be checking whether the particular user and password is correct or not. So let's do that quickly. We have this verify view over here. So I'll copy this values because it's the same. I have to have methods as get and post, and we have only username and password over here. And yeah, so here also this simple check will write if my username and password are there, I want to have a connection with MySQL. Okay, connect, and then I want to have a cursor which will have cursor. And now here I won't be calling any stored procedure because we'll be verifying it with the database. So what I'll be doing is I'll be using a select statement. So I'll show you cursor dot execute, as we are executing a statement, so we are calling execute. And again, to know about all these methods in depth, please go through the Flask MySQL documentation. I'll provide you the link also in Discord, so please check it out. So here we have cursor.execute, select star from my details table where the where the username will be this is a condition percentile s. Okay, I'll tell you what this percentile s means. So where username and okay, user password will also be percentile s. So what this percentile s is, it's a formatter in Python where you can have as many percentile s, but after that you have to provide what this percentile s represents. So here the first percentile s represents my username string, and the second one represents my password string. So I'll be executing this query. I'll be going to the database. I'll be telling select, fetch me all those users which have the particular username and the password. So why not try it first and then? So we have this select star from details where the username is, let's have the most recent entry, test 123. Okay, and the user password is test. So when I execute it, I should be getting only one row, and that is what we got. So suppose if the username and password doesn't exist in the database, we'll be getting 0 rows. So there we go. We can have that check over here. So how can we verify those details? So now I'll be using data is my cursor dot fetch one. Okay, so forgot to show you the fetch all method. So as we can see over here, let's go back to the enter details view. And I told you, like, I'll be showing this fetch all method to you. So what this fetch all will do, if this will cause any problem to the database, it will return us. So it didn't cause any problem to the database, that's why we have this empty value over here. So then then I'm checking, okay, so if it didn't cause any trouble to the database, let me just enter the details and quickly go to the home page. So here fetch one also does the same thing. As you can see over here, we have this null. So this query will return us the number of rows of the particular username and user password. So we have fetch one. So now if we have that fetch one, like I'm checking over here if data, so if we have a data or not. So if the data is null, it will again redirect to the login page. And if we have a data, okay, sorry, so if we have a data, we are just committing it. So we're committing the changes, and then we are returning the home page again. And now let's test it with the application. We have this verify details. Let's have test 123. And what's the password? The password is small test. Okay, and when we click on verify, yeah, we have this verify. So we were redirected to the home page. Sorry, we have this verify. Yeah, there you go, guys. That's how you insert data from front end to the database, and how you can check the data from the front end with the database. So that was the session, guys. How you can connect it with MySQL, and how you can integrate your web applications. Now this is a simple web application, but you guys can play with it and you can make it a bit more uh, interactive and dynamic.
Thank you so much, Nishchal, for your time. So, can we take some questions from the
Yes,
chat
yes,
because
yes.
we have got plenty of doubts?
Sure, sure, sure.
I
Yeah.
request the team to like, what's the difference between use cases of relational and non-relational databases?
Okay, use cases. Okay, so as I told you, relational databases are used in AI and ML. They are very much used in AI and ML. So in AI and ML, what we do is we got to have a relation between two attributes or two columns. So that's the use case of relational. Non-relational. Suppose let's take an example of Google Firebase. It's a non-relational database. So what it does is it takes your queries, and it provides you a quick database storage. Whereas relational, you have to make a relation between each entry. So that's the use case. Non-relational is for quick purpose, like if you want to create a short and quick application, non-relational will be good.
Great. I hope that answers the question. Now we'll be moving to next, right? As we know, MERN stack is a hype. Why using CERN stack? Integrating MongoDB in backend is easy, whereas SQL is difficult. Why should we choose? What should we choose?
Yeah, so okay, so that's a very good question. I know MERN stack is hype, but in some projects you will be needing MySQL, and that's why we you can't use MongoDB through your entire software life. So somehow and somewhere you have to use MySQL, and that's how you have to choose in between. I
That
hope
totally
that.
depends upon the need, I guess. It totally
Yeah, yeah,
depends upon
sure.
the need.
Yeah, suppose you have a simple to-do app, then you can use MongoDB or any database you want. But if you have a complex app where you have to have relations between them, like a college management system, there you have to have relations. So in that you have to choose it. It totally depends upon you.
Great. Next question, I guess. Just a second. Like we have got some comments that you are teaching much better than the college professors.
Thank you.
I hope none of my college professor or the person who asked the doubt is watching the session right now. No worries. Let's move forward
No
with the
problem.
questions. Can we use
Mhm.
Node.js instead of Python? Yes, you can use
Yeah.
anything, right?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention this point. MySQL also has a connection with Node.js. So I did not explain it over here, but you guys can try it, and it's very simple. And uh, yeah,
Right. Node.js will be like, as you have learned Node.js, it will be easier you to
yes,
implement with Node.js as well.
yeah, sure.
Next, difference between MongoDB and MySQL.
Okay. MySQL is a relational database, and MongoDB is non-relational database. So there you go, the difference. MySQL provides relation among the data, whereas MongoDB is unstructured. It doesn't provide any relation. SQL is structured data. As you saw, we have tables and we have rows and columns. And whereas MongoDB, it will be in a JSON format, where you have to provide each and every entry.
Those who don't know JSON, it is quite mostly used in Firebase also. JSON,
Yes.
Firebase, I guess, also uses JSON to fetch the data.
Yes.
Uh, next question. Would Python or JavaScript rule over web? Node.js is the newer thing. People are shifting to Node, and a lot of companies using Node.js as their backend.
Um, this question, it's quite controversial. Like, which language will rule over the web? Like, we have some legacy language also. So, it's our totally depends upon you. But as we are in software, we have to keep evolving as the languages are evolving. So, I would suggest whatever suits you, please learn that first and then try to implement it in other languages.
And actually, these languages also depends upon the need. There are some companies
Yeah.
who still work on PHP rather shifting to Python and
Yes.
Node.js. I have seen people working on PHP.
Yeah.
So that totally depends upon the need.
Yes. Correct.
Can't we interconnect data in MongoDB? I guess you're asking, can we connect SQL database and MongoDB together?
Can't we interconnect data in MongoDB? We you can, but we have a MongoDB session, so I guess this question is more relevant to that
Yes,
session.
right. I guess he or she is asking that SQL data to MongoDB, I guess, if I'm not wrong.
Data in MongoDB. I the question is not quite clear.
Can you? It would be great if you can quickly reframe your question and ask in the chat section so we can come to a solution.
Yeah.
Great. I guess these are all the questions. I hope we haven't missed any of the questions in the live chat. If there are any more questions, please feel free to ask. We have another session for app dev today, guys. That is the front end part two. That is from 6:30, I guess, and we'll be making the second part of the app which we left yesterday. So we'll be having an amazing session today, and I would request everyone to attend that session as well. It's from sorry to correct, it is 7:30 p.m. IST. So guys, do connect, do join us. Like the question, like Shivam actually cleared his question. He's asking, I mean MongoDB to SQL.
Okay. MongoDB to SQL. Uh, I think you can, but I don't have the knowledge, or else what I say, I didn't experience the need to do that basically. So I'm sorry. You guys can. I won't be able to answer that question.
And I guess there's no need to do that. Why to
Yeah,
out of
make it more
MongoDB?
complex and clutter.
It, it is possible, I guess it is possible, but it will be a very more complex because you have to convert tables into JSON and then fetch data to MongoDB.
Yes.
Out of MongoDB and MySQL, which is better?
I won't take any sides over here. It depends on your need. It totally
Right?
depends on your need.
Why storing data in databases is good rather in files?
Okay. Uh, Files. Okay, so let me give you an example. Here we saved passwords. Okay, so that's crucial information, and databases can be secured using other protocols. Here MySQL provides a password protocol, but you can implement more layers of security. In files also you can implement, but you cannot store data much more efficiently, and the crud operations won't be performed with much efficiency as what we will be doing in databases. File storage is also a type of database, but the databases which we use currently are much more efficient than file storage.
Efficient as well as organized than file storage.
Yes.
So it is much more easier for fetch data. Now let's move to the next question. We have Shivam will be skipping your question because there's no competition between MongoDB and SQL. But yeah, like why storing data? That question is done, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh, do we have more questions? I guess Hari Kiran want to know your daily routine so they can
What is your
motivate
daily so
themselves.
we get motivated to push more? Okay, so my daily routine is basically just like a normal guy, uh, attend the classes and everything. But the motivation which I get to get up of bed is there are new technologies and the technologies are evolving. So this is the stage where you can learn new technologies and implement them in your real life. So that what pushes me forward to get up and learn and implement stuff in real life. That's the key point which I want to focus.
Next, Deepak wants to ask where to host a MySQL database in a project.
Okay, yeah. So there are sites, GitHub page, commonly like Netlify, uh, Heroku, which have their own MySQL database configured, so you can use their databases to store the data. So what we do is in software development, we have a local system and we have a server system. So in local system, we do all those testings and all, and in server system, we when we deploy the project, we take the users information. So in that way, you can use the database in the deployment sites. But in a company it will be very much different. The companies will have their own databases, so uh, you need not worry about that. But in your project, you can use the databases which are provided by these sites.
And also, like if you are having shared hosting, they also provide SQL databases in shared hosting. If you are hosting a
Yes.
project on shared hosting,
Yeah, yeah,
which is usually known as cPanel hosting. I guess that is the most common term for people who are new to web dev.
yeah.
And sorry, Hari Kirat, uh, sorry for mispronunciation. Har Kirat, sorry once again, Har Kirat. No, and next question,
how
Nishchal, can you tell about your experience? Okay, first outreach question: how your SQL changed your life?
how SQL changed
MySQL.
my life. uh, it made me more organized. That that's what I'll tell you. But I won't I
Very
won't
apt
use
answer.
MySQL. I won't use MySQL in all my projects. I'll be changing databases, but it made my life more organized.
Can you tell her about your experience with your GSOC 2021?
Okay. Well, it was amazing experience from making the project proposal to submitting it to the mentor and to completing the project. It was a total hill ride. uh, the moment where I felt like was most uh, crucial was when we were getting the results, because there's a high chance of the company not selecting your proposal. And then after getting selected, we had to communicate with the mentors, and then from there on it was just a weekly basis of communication with the mentor and the work what you do. There were some milestones targeted by the mentor which we had to complete, and in order to pass GSOC, for me they were quite good, because I had some previous knowledge regarding the project which I worked on. I'll also share the link of the project. Uh, so I used Python, so I'm very fluent in Python. So I used that language. So it was quite good for me, but it was an amazing experience.
Right, experience. Amazing. Cool. So we'll be ending like this. One more question, then we'll be ending the session. Guys,
Yeah.
about the giveaway. After this question, we'll take giveaway. Apart from that, we'll be having one more session today for Android Dev that is at 7:30 p.m. We'll be working on the front end part of yesterday's projects only. So the last question is how to manage development and CP.
Okay. CP. I hope it means competitive programming.
Yes, competitive
Uh,
programming.
so development competitive programming and CP, you can manage it quite easily, because after competitive programming, then only you will be in development. Like, you have to have a bit of knowledge. So competitive programming gives you a bit of knowledge regarding the language, and then you can use it in your development. So uh, I would go competitive programming and development, like both you can manage it 50-50.
Like if you are the person who is more interested only on development, I would suggest go for data structure and algorithms, and that will help you to cope up with the development as well.
Yeah,
And if you are totally into CP, then there are many websites and platforms that it will help you to work on CP.
knock your socks off.
I guess there's one more question. Okay, we can see your SQL love in the background. We can see books and beds are clean and organized. But if you see my beds, I have a MongoDB.
Wow, that's great. Well,
You-
I want to tell you, uh, I took this session SQL. That's why I organized the bed and all that. But in real life, I'm more of a MongoDB person.
and like most of the our generation are all a MongoDB person.
Yes.
Right. So I guess we have cleared the milestone of the giveaway. So we are giving away. So Nishal, you have to pick a number. Let me check the number of responses. We have about 55 responses.
Okay.
So please pick five numbers between 1 and 55. Random five numbers. So these people will get giveaway.
I'm sorry, those who don't get selected. Okay, I'll be picking 11.
Just a second,
Uh,
one by one. I'll check the name and announce it one by one.
okay, sure.
So 11th is Diksha Chaudhary. Great.
Congrats.
Congratulations, Diksha.
And
Next number.
next number, let's go with 55, because
Okay, the
that,
last one.
yeah.
The last one is Kavya Gopi.
Okay. The next number, 33.
33. Uh, it's Anshita Sharma. Sorry for mispronunciation.
And the fourth number, let's go with number 4 as 4.
Number fourth is Hafsa Ayman.
Okay. And
Congratulations. And one last winner.
last
Who is going
one,
to be
uh,
last number?
the first entry, obviously, because they tried. So first, yeah, one. They
Okay.
are the quick responders.
Okay. It's Arya Patil.
Awesome.
Congratulations, everyone. And I
Congrats.
hope everyone you will be getting a mail regarding this giveaway, so please keep checking your mail. If you don't claim your prize with like claim your prize in a week, it will be gone. So please keep checking your mail. You'll be getting a mail in 1 or 2 days. So great, guys. Thank you everyone for participating, and thank you, Nishal, for your time and for this amazing sessions. We have got some amazing feedback about how descriptive and how easy your session is,
Thank you.
and thanks for the hands-on session. And once
Thank you.
again,
Thank you
don't
so much.
forget to attend today's app dev session. Okay, we have got one more question. How
Okay.
to start CP after learning our first language like C and C++.
Okay, like Khalid said earlier, we have many platforms, HackerRank, LeetCode, which test your competitive programming skills. So you can go over there and practice, start from easy and go yourself to hard, your difficulty level to hard. So most of competitive programming is written in C or C++. So I guess it's a very good language that you started. I started with Python, so that's why I have been using Python. But if you started with C++, it's a very good language to go with competitive programming, and also learn the more important DSA, like data structures and algorithms of the particular language.
This language, the language you like or language you are fluent with, I guess you should go with it. People do CP in JavaScript, Python, C++, and
Yeah.
Java as well. So that depends upon your most common are Java and C++.
Yes.
Most these two.
Yes, mostly.
Right. So once again, thank you everyone for being a part of Developer Days. And Don't forget to attend today's app dev session at 7:30 p.m. today. And that's it for today. Thank you so much, Nishchal. Thank you so much to all the participants for
Thank
joining
you.
us today for today's session of Developer Student Community Mozilla Durg KOG Durg presents Developer Days, platform partner Dayfolio, authentication partner Savo Labs, supported by Script Foundation, and streaming partner StreamYard, a month-long celebration for developer. Thank you so much and have a great day. Meet you all at 7:30 p.m. today.
Bye.